for Friday all week long. Welcome to the Grief Chat. This is Jill here
I'm
with.
Deb.
We're
I'm
glad
Deb.
you're here, and we're here that you're also listening on the recorded podcast afterward. If that is where you are, you can find us at facebook.com/Friday Grief Chat. You can also find us on all the podcast places under Humor, Grace, and Grief. And we're just really glad we're here. Thank you for your indulgence last week. We were not here last week because my pup Zoe died suddenly, not unexpectedly,
Jill.
but we needed to take the day off. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And our hearts go out to you, Jill. You probably read everything
I
that
did, and I
people wrote.
appreciate that.
And, it doesn't matter. Mm-hmm.
She was an
Can you
old
hear me
rescue.
okay?
I can indeed. Can you hear me? Can you
Yeah,
hear
there
me?
must be a delay, but that's okay.
Okay.
Yep, I hear you fine.
So next week, it will
Wow.
be Deb solo, and the week after, because I will be getting on a ship at this hour, because I decided it to be very important to tempt fate and go to the Bermuda Triangle. And then the following Friday, I'll be getting off the ship, assuming we get out of the Bermuda Triangle. We'll see about that. And then the week after, I'll be back here, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed.
And speaking of, oh, that's great. That is just great. Bermuda Triangle. Are you really going to the Bermuda Triangle, or are you going to an island somewhere?
We're going to the country of Bermuda, which is in fact in the Bermuda Triangle. I am not like some of my girlfriends. There are a group of us going because we're all celebrating a big birthday. And some of them are taking an evening cruise with drinks into the center of the triangle. And I decided probably you didn't want to do that with a double widow and a mortician who frequently cancel trips because of emergencies. We thought we probably were not the good pennies to have on that boat. So we're going to stay back and relax on deck.
I love it. I just love it.
Yep, and I will be wearing my T-shirt that night that says I ordered the drink package. Yeah. My friend Ping made.
Oh.
So I was sitting in the car listening to Disney songs yesterday because I could not listen to the debate. And I just needed to down my stress. And so on came a Disney princess song from Frozen 2. And it talked about grief feels like it's overwhelming, but you need to find your new gift and the new thing, what your new thing will be for your new life. And I thought that could not be a better kind of a place for us to go on the chat.
I agree. And I'm also thinking, I think international death and bereavement and grief studies needs something similar as a topic.
Yes.
Grief with Disney, and which
that's our new topic for next year.
I definitely think so.
Yes.
I think we should examine grief through Disney with different songs and different moments where Disney has been bold to show death. But back to what you were saying, I was just talking about with one of my clients yesterday that lots of times with any kind of loss, you feel a big hole. And your mind rushes to fill the hole, or your friends and family and people that aren't the grievers rush to fill your hole.
Because it makes them uncomfortable, just like it makes
Because
you uncomfortable.
a hole actually makes a lot of people uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody. When you see a hole, what is the first thing when you're walking? What do? You avoid it.
Right.
Because you don't want to be the one to fill the hole when you go over, right?
Let me just tell you, as an aside, when you have someone with dementia in your house and they are a wanderer, get a black round rug, tape it down because throw rugs are dangerous and they move and trip people, and put it in front of the doors. It will prevent them from going out that door.
What a great, great
Total
idea.
MacGyver move.
Does it have to be round or any
It looks
kind
like a hole.
has to look like a hole? It's
Has
flat.
to look like a hole. And our brains are taught from childhood that holes are typically round, right? You can also put a stop sign on the door because our brains are all taught to stop for stop signs. So those two items together are really helpful for wanderers. At least it slows them down a moment.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
But anyway, back to holes.
So,
yes, we are taught to avoid them.
and I wish people would think of grief like a hole. One of the ways to think of grief is a hole. And before you go to fill that hole, maybe take a breath. They started teasing me at church because I'm the one says, even if I'm talking to them on the phone or if I'm online or whatever, I said, can we all just take a deep breath? I
Yes.
need a breath. And you can feel when you sense that hole, take a breath.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be filled right away. And if you do fill it, one of the things I was reading about this week, people, let's say you're losing weight on Wegovy or any of those things. Do you know a lot of people eat to fill that hole?
Yes, they do.
And when you're on Wegovy, you don't, or any of those, they really suppress your appetite. And so if they're suppressing your appetite, what are you going to do? It's a lot of people do to fill the hole, go to retail therapy. And
I like coloring therapy. That is what we try to go
coloring
to.
therapy is wonderful. Drinking water is wonderful. What are you going to fill the hole with? So go ahead.
You know, I will say that we have the new pup, Lily, who we were trying to find a home for, but apparently she's found a home here. And she gets anxious. She was abandoned, and then abandoned again. And then I had to take her to the vet today to get fixed. So I was abandoning her, air quotes, again. And I said, can we get her a squeaky toy? And they went and grabbed one for her because she fills her anxious hole with a soft, squishy thing that squeaks. It gives her something to converse with, something to chew on, something to nurse on. It fills her spot.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing wrong with all of us having something like that. I typically have a stuffed animal on my desk, but it's a gigantic firestorm right now because I'm trying to get out of town. But yeah, there's nothing wrong with even just something small that you can hold on to, right?
Exactly. And, you know, I have a friend whose husband died unexpectedly, and she writes on Facebook different things. And part of the way she fills that hole is writing on Facebook some of the challenges that face her. And yet she's always, there's some part of what she writes is gratefulness. She talks about how the it is to sit outside, how it is to sit outside without her husband, how to sit outside when wildlife comes through. And yet, some of her so-called friends, maybe they're not really friends, but that have known them for a long time, it's like they tell you that you're filling the hole wrong.
Right. You're finding your new spot in a wrong spot. It's not the right spot for them.
Yeah, like what right does someone have to tell you you're doing it wrong? I mean, we run up
can't do it wrong.
You can't. There is no wrong. It's unique for the situation.
We don't want you going into massive debt. We don't want you throwing yourself into insulin-dependent diabetes. We don't want you needing to go to rehab. Other than that, you're not doing it wrong. You are trying to find your new space to help your whole feel like it's got value and form and that you can do something with it.
That's right.
And we want you to share your loss with others and what you are doing. There's the ampersand. And share what you are doing to change your life, because you have to change your life. So let's change it in a good way. I was talking to somebody dealing with dementia yesterday. And they said, I'm so tired of people saying I'm so strong. I didn't get a choice. No, you don't get a choice, but you do have a choice as to what you do with the space around being strong. You do have a choice about when you put strong away and let tears come through or let smiles come through.
Maybe we need a different definition of strong. Cancer, people who are going through cancer don't like that either.
No.
So what if, they're strong like people who can lift weights, people who can lift more than the average. Maybe we need to say strong when dealing with emotions needs to be translated as, oh my God, I see that as a very hard thing. I see that as a very difficult thing.
How about you're coping amazingly well? This must be really hard.
Yes.
There's the space for the opening of the discussion. When you say you are being strong, you are telling someone they can't share. And when you're saying they're doing it wrong, you're telling them they can't explore what their new is. They didn't want new, let's be clear.
Yes.
But now that new is here, let's support them in finding it.
That's right. Nobody wants cancer. Nobody, I mean, really? Nobody
wants to lose a loved one or a pet who is a loved one.
That's right.
Or to lose their job or any of that. Nobody wants any of that.
No. So saying, how did you say it, Jill? I think you're doing an amazing job.
But it looks like it's really hard. You are coping really well. It must be really hard.
Yes. Identify with that must be really hard. Yeah. And state the obvious. I mean, a friend and I were talking, and she has cancer. And I go, I don't know any other way to say this, but it just sucks to be you.
Yeah.
It does. Why don't we state the obvious? Who wants to cope with something like this?
Absolutely nobody.
Right. So when we maybe giving some new definitions to hard, to you're so strong.
Let's eliminate that word.
Right.
And also, you look so good. Stop that. Stop that. Because that also tells someone,
You didn't
okay,
look so
this
good
is the
before.
box you need to be in.
Right.
And you can't talk about the fact that you maybe not feel so good, whether
Right.
it's because you're sick or it's because someone else is sick or because you're grieving. We don't need to tell people that.
You know, I remember when the funeral director, having never been at a funeral or prepared a funeral for anybody, I'm the minister for tons, but this was way back in the 90s, and the funeral director said, "So, how does she look?" Meaning my mom in the casket. And I was thoroughly confused. And I said, "She looks dead." And then I realized he was his eyes were like, "Oh, a compliment needs to be inserted about the makeup."
Right. How did
And
I do preserving her body?
yeah, and I went, "But for dead, she looks pretty good." That's what I said.
when
I'm
I
Go
right
ahead.
when I was with my cousin in Washington a few weeks ago, we were talking, and she said, "Do you know if anyone got any pictures of Auntie Edna in her casket?" And I said, "Oh, I know we did because our family always takes casket pictures. And folks, that's actually normal. That's something that's been done since we've had photography." But she's like, "I just so want to see that one again." Because when we walked into the mortuary, it wasn't, it was for my grandmother's funeral. My grandmother was in her casket, and our grandmother was prim, proper. Makeup was not allowed, right? Stern was usually the look. And they had done a beautiful job turning her into Auntie Edna with plump cheeks and a little bit of blush and pink lips and this sweet little beatific smile. And we all laughed and we went, "Oh my God, they killed Auntie Edna and put her in." And then we were all laughing when our mothers walked in, and this was their mom, and we silenced up and we waited, and they walked up and they burst into laughter too. And the mortician was like, "Did I do something wrong?" We're like, "Oh no, this is the best thing ever."
You know, that's interesting. Maybe Stacy would know this better than anyone. When did they start putting makeup on people to make it presentable?
Oh, a long time ago. Used to be done at home by the family. A little bit of red flannel in water makes for blush.
Oh, I did not know that.
And
I
before,
mean,
and if
back
and if there
then.
was no makeup available, then you would put a little bit of, if you had it, material, see-through material, like
Yes.
a chiffon or something with a pink tint to it. And so that would give you the image of a more alive person. Although why we want people to be alive, I don't know, but it does make people feel better when they don't feel creeped out looking at someone.
I mean, I really need to look at more of the history, because it seems like that's once we stop pretending they were dead, we filled the hole. Morticians filled the hole by saying, "Oh, look, they're just asleep." You know, you couldn't say, yeah. I mean, I didn't know what other cultures. You and I did a whole big talk.
Oh yeah.
Or I did a whole big talk on. I can't remember if we were both there for that. But you know, they didn't used to do that like 1700s, 1600s.
Well, we weren't embalming. We started embalming at the time of the Civil War. And it was optional. Families would pay extra so that they could get their dead soldier home without having them decompose.
Ah, yeah, yeah. So the moms could see them.
So moms could see them, which is what people wanted.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. I guess I just didn't realize that. Commercialism. Oh, you have a hole and we can fill it.
That's how it works everywhere.
Yeah.
Right?
I did not realize that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. And I just want to say, and I'm sort of interjecting this into like that hole, that pit you feel in the bottom of your stomach. I do want to briefly talk about the debate because a lot of people are just feeling that pit in the bottom of their stomach today.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a loss. It's a loss when you find out other countries are talking smack about you.
Mm-hmm.
It's a loss. I mean, for both sides, not just it's not just Biden, it's not just Trump, because where Biden, there were it listen to the way I'm talking. A stutter really messes you up. Number one, having
Mm-hmm.
a cold and taking cold congestion, messes
That will
you
slow
up.
you down. Mm-hmm.
That'll slow you down. And then on the other side, saying a bunch of lies, saying, exaggerating things that may have one kernel of truth, and then you exaggerate it to the point where it's not recognizable, that people are feeling a sense of loss for both.
It's something that therapists woke up to this morning, and there was a lot of discussion in the back channels about how are we going to get through the day and the week, because election years have become a time of fear for many of our clients for all kinds of reasons,
For all
for all
kinds of
kinds
reasons.
of issues, and on both sides of the spectrum.
Right.
But how do we hold the space and provide the support when you can't turn the TV on without some kind of news tracker coming on and telling you what you're supposed to be thinking about and who thinks who won and what? There's no peace.
Right. Right. And so we say to our viewing audience, as we have been saying through this, how are you going to fill that hole? Now,
Right.
a lot of people will keep reading the news over and over and over and over, and that hole gets deeper and deeper because you're filling a hole with more hole, right? To make it sort of a, I don't know what you would call it, but we are filling a WHOLE with a HOLE.
Right.
That's what happens when you go onto the news. So I'm not saying you shouldn't, don't go there or whatever, but balance out your HOLE with funny videos. We watched, we lasted about 20 minutes, 25 minutes, and we decided to finish up the series Lincoln Lawyer, right? So we did that. Some people watched other TV programs. Some knew that they would feel an HOLE, so they recorded it last night, or not recorded, knew they could look at the shorter snippets today on YouTube or whatever. And so take some time, I'm saying to the audience, is take that time to balance out those that you want to move from HOLE to WHOLE.
Right. We want you to find where you can bring that lost piece and that whole and find the things that help you mark what was missing
Mm-hmm.
and recreate some space for you
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and make some meaning of that whole. Right? How do you do that? How do you make meaning of whatever it is? How do you make meaning out of having survived cancer? Maybe you start doing fundraisers for cancer issues or for helping people, or you start volunteering to help someone who has cancer, take people to treatment or grocery stores or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
right? How do you make meaning out of um, having to retire early? Find some volunteer work to do where you can use your gifts and talents and help others and maybe work yourself back into a new job, right? How do you make meaning out of a death? You find a way to share that person.
Viktor Frankl, in The Meaning of Life, right? Um, Viktor Frankl was in, and Jill knows this, but I'll just say it for our listening audience. Viktor Frankl was in the Holocaust, and he was a psychiatrist. And he could not, one day, they all felt rotten, and he had to march to a place where he had to work. If you can't march or you fall down, you get shot.
Right.
And he knew he didn't want to get shot. And so in his mind, he started imagining himself as a psychiatrist in the future speaking to 400 people or whatever. And that he was talking about this experience now. He was making meaning now, planting the seeds of meaning making for the future. And by the way, he developed what he called logotherapy, which is about, having a picture meaning making. And so when you have a loss of any kind, like Jill said, you're not going to feel this in the beginning. Forget it. You're going to go through total eruption disruption, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you can remember or let somebody else remind you, but they're not filling your hole. This is down the road. I don't know when down the road is for you. Wow, what a story to tell.
It is a very big story to tell. And, we still use those lessons when we do things like art therapy, when we do
Right.
Vision boards. He had a vision board in his head because he was in a concentration camp. Have you seen the movie about Diane von Furstenberg that just came out?
No.
Her mom was a Holocaust survivor.
I did not know that. Wow.
And when she got out of the camp, she was 44 pounds.
The mom?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Yeah.
And some of the other family escaped. A lot of the family did not. And she talks about how that shaped everything about them. And her mom went to the never stop, be strong. And Diane von Furstenberg apparently has adapted that, but her grandchildren talk about how there were some pieces to that kind of kept people at bay because, the sadness was not, that was not something that was totally allowed. Mm-hmm. And that's where we want to make sure that when we adapt to our holes, we don't seal over what's there. We want to bring it out into the light, give it some tan, right? Let it enjoy the roses and make it part of who we are, not a driving force for who we have to be. Does that make sense?
You know, it's interesting. You can shine a light into a hole, but the dark cannot shine outward.
Right.
It's okay to look at the hole.
Mm-hmm.
It is okay to be in a hole. It is all okay.
100%.
And you know what? You're not going to catch a hole.
No, you're not. Or cancer or death. You can hang out with Jill and I will not make you die. It's okay.
Well, you know, people have said to me, maybe a little bit they could catch.
Maybe. At least they can catch the it's okay when it eventually happens piece. And that's a good part.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
Right. So next week it's going to be all the Deb. Deb, what do you think you're going to talk about?
I am not sure, but I'm going to talk about it.
Okie dokie.
Yeah, I might have to look up Diane Von. Is it on Netflix?
I think that's where we found it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Our best wishes go out to Steve. He's home recovering from surgery.
Yay, Steve.
And we're glad you did it. And maybe we should have you come on sometime and talk about how you changed your life with needing to make changes and what that grief was like and what that resolution was like. So anyway, I will miss all of you, and I do mean that. I will see all of you. I wish all of you a very safe 4th of July. Please be careful with the fireworks. Please make sure you don't start fires. Please make sure you keep your pets inside and get them what they need so they don't run away.
Yes, and calm your puppies down.
Calm them down. The vet has meds for them. They really do work for Fred. Yeah. Poor Fred's been on trazodone since last week. So don't be afraid of it. Make sure that you talk to your vet and you get your baby what you need so you get through it. And if you get anxious because of fireworks, you don't have to go to a party. You can take yourself and stay home and do something different.
Yeah. Protect your inner freedom.
Absolutely. And your heart. All right, everybody. I will see you in 2 weeks, 3 weeks. Bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone. Bye-bye.